course, we got to talk some draft stuff with you, Emmitt. Looking at this NFL draft as a whole, I feel like one of the biggest surprises was that 2 running backs went in the first round for the first time in 5 years. Is this a sign that teams are starting to recognize the value in running backs, or are these just players that are just super talented, you think?
These are players that are super talented. And I think if we see in the years to come more running backs starting to get into the league, get into that first round, then you can say that. But right now, I think these 2 guys are 2 of the most talented running backs out there in the NCAA. And coming into the National Football League, these 2 guys can help transform a team. Now, Bijan himself is going to need some help at the quarterback position. There's no doubt about that. But he definitely is a force. He was a great collegiate football player, and now his game has to transition into the National Football League.
Dallas, they drafted a defensive tackle from Michigan with their first pick. He is expected to learn under Jonathan Hankins, but now it seems like the defense is pretty much every tool they need to be one of the best, if not the best, defensive unit in the league. But how do you feel about the offensive side of the ball and the weapons they currently have?
Well, I think offensively, we definitely need to upgrade in the tight end position. And I think we need to bring in another, we got somebody on the other side of CeeDee Lamb now. So we got some guys that can really stretch the field and create space that would afford the running game to take effect. But offensively, we definitely need to bring in some guys to shore up our offensive line. We got guys up front that are very good football players, but we need to have some backup just in case somebody goes down and we don't miss a beat. Because when you're going up against a team like Philadelphia and they're bringing in that defensive line that they have, they're going to put pressure on everybody and every team. And your team has to be able to hold up against that pressure. And any injury on any offensive line or defensive line can set you back. And so depth is a very important thing to have, but also the consistency that you need to develop and the cohesiveness that you need to develop up front is extremely important as well. So kudos to our defense. We feel like we've gotten better because we got a linebacker, we got a D tackle, guys that can keep the offensive line off these fast guys so they can get in that backfield and create havoc. And that's exciting because we got good corners too. And so I'm excited to see how things shape up, but it's going to be tough.
I know, and it's clear that Dallas is trying to go all in on running or trying to fix their run defense. And in their last 3 playoff losses, the Cowboys gave up a combined 554 rushing yards, which is insane. So it's no surprise Micah Parsons was jumping with joy at the pick. But with all that said, how much do you see Dallas's run defense improving this season with their defensive-heavy draft?
Well, it has to improve. You going, I ain't gonna say all in terms of poker, but you are going all in to fix that defense and to shore up the run game, which is extremely important because if you do that, if you're able to stop the run game, and with the corners that we have and the safeties that we have, then Micah Parsons and that defense can actually put a lot more pressure on the quarterback, and the ball must leave fairly quickly. So we got solid corners. But the one thing that we did not do well, and you spoke about it, is stopping the run. Back in my day, stopping the run was the most important thing that any defense can actually do to make an offense become one-dimensional. But being committed to running the ball also is one of the things that the offense can do to bring stability to any offense, no matter how difficult it is running the football. Because the clock should become your friend when you're playing against a high-powered offense that's trying to score every time that they're on the football field. But if you're putting pressure on that quarterback and stopping the run and making the team become one-dimensional, it generally plays in the defense's hands. But, you know, it's one of those yin and a yang kind of thing.
Yeah. When it was Super Bowl time, I briefly asked you a little bit about the Zeke situation, but obviously fast forward now, Jerry Jones has said, quote, "The ship hasn't sailed yet," when he was asked about possibly re-signing Zeke.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that? Is it time for Dallas to move on from him and stick with the potential Pollard-Vaughn duo, or How do you feel about it?
I think Dallas need to bring Zeke back if they can. And here's why I believe that. I believe that with the uncertainty of Pollard being able to come back and being the Tony Pollard that we all know, that is yet to be seen. Until that has proven itself out and he's healthy enough to get out there and carry the football and be some form of who he used to be, that is my biggest concern. No disrespect to Malik Davis, no disrespect to Deuce Vaughn, but Deuce Vaughn and Malik Davis and no Tony Pollard presents a major challenge for the Dallas Cowboys offense because the defense may not respect neither one of those guys until they prove themselves. And so that puts a lot more pressure on the passing game. But with Ezekiel Elliott back there and a guy that knows the offense, knows the blocking schemes, knows how to pick up the blitz, you don't have to train him or teach him to do those things. He's very familiar with an offense. And now with McCarthy calling the plays and so forth, you would probably see something different out of Ezekiel Elliott versus what you saw with Kellen Moore. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the difference between the offensive system and the nuances that we have under McCarthy versus what Kellen Moore was doing and the consistency and the play calling selection during the process of the game. Those are things that I had some question marks around last year that I'm hoping to get ironed out this year so we can become a better offense and a much more efficient offense.
Yeah. Lastly, we can't have a Dallas Cowboys conversation without talking about the freaking Eagles. So it's no shock that they absolutely crushed the draft. They got A+ grades all around, rightfully so, after landing Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, and DeAndre Swift. Straight up, did the rich get richer, you think?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. When I look at the Philadelphia Eagles and their draft picks and their team that went to the Super Bowl last year, I see a team that reminds me of us when we had that type of talent on our defensive side of the ball. And that was back in 92, 93 football season, the 93, 94 Super Bowl season, our second Super Bowl year, when we were too deep defensively. Our defensive front that consists of a Charles Haley, Tony Tolbert, Tony Casillas, Russell Maryland, Chad Hennings, Jimmy Jones, and some others, Leon Lett. All of that was our front four. And notice I called 8 guys out. And so when they came on the football field, they created havoc for everybody that we played against. And I see the Eagles in the same light because they picked up some young cats that can actually go play as well. So that makes it very challenging for anybody, not only the Dallas Cowboys and the NFC East, but everybody that the Eagles play, because that offense that they have is very dynamic with Jalen Hurts back there doing what he does. And I'm sure they upgraded some on the offensive side too. They're getting players there. So this team just improved, if you want to call it 2% more, but that 2% on a team that was already good makes a big difference.
So what you're saying is you're a little bit worried facing Philly this year.
Why not? I mean, I gotta be. I'm not worried. I'm a little concerned, and I'm looking for my team to match up and compete. But because you can have all the talent in the world, like we did, and still go to the NFC Championship game and lose against the 49ers. So anything is possible on any given Sunday. Chemistry is one of the things that people underestimate and don't really understand how it's developed. And so as great as the Eagles were, as great as they look on paper, it doesn't take much to mess up chemistry.
Hey, sports fans, if you want to see more conversations with athletes and stars, check out these videos right here and be sure to subscribe for more from USA Today Sports.